You know, I think it is confusing that there's been several areas around town that have been called Cicero Commons. What we're talking about is New Dimensions, which is that 120 track where the Cicero Library sits and where the skating rink sits, okay? So that's all we're talking about tonight. And we're talking about releasing a covenant to build a town hall on those 18 acres. We're still keeping the intention to build a town hall on the rest of that property if we ever decide to do that, if we ever got enough money to do that, or if we ever, you know, made a decision to do that. So I'm not sure. I've heard a couple comments that we're breaking the law, but I don't see how we're breaking the law. We're not giving anybody anything. You know, the land isn't ours. It belongs to New Dimensions, and it's being sold by New Dimensions to Loretto, who is going to be the owner, and they're going to build a nursing home there, or in effect, a new style of elderly care.
I think your point was, though, leasing property is against the law. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, in effect, you're saying that the lease that's on the property, perhaps now is the time in saying, well, let's extinguish the lease language and perhaps do a general conveyance of property.
Well, I'm
to
trying
the
to figure
town,
out whether.
if we're trying to reserve property.
Well, I'm trying to figure out who owns this property. I mean, you've got 100 and how many acres up there?
Corporation owns it.
Okay, the corporation owns it, so how do we have any lease on it? Or does,
Because the covenant that first went in when the property was sold originally contained the covenant. That stays with the land, that doesn't go away. So when the new owner bought it, he bought it with that covenant.
that covenant which states,
That we have a right to lease property to build a town hall.
At Anson, Eileen Ave. I just wish that on this project, you spell out very clearly how much it's gonna cost us, if anything, the taxpayers, in terms of, do we have to signalize intersections, pay for sewers, maintain the roads? Is there any perks that they're giving that's gonna come out of the taxpayer's pocket?
Who wants to speak to
The
this?
answer is no. The developer's paying for, the utilities are already there, the infrastructure is already there that was done before. The developer's paying for all the cost of everything else. We're not giving him anything. It's all up to them. The town's not paying for anything.
So there will be no cost.
No
That's
problem.
correct.
Lori? Thank you.
Lori Sager, Shetland Drive, Cicero. I remember Cicero Commons, and the town took out a bond for $15.5 million to pay for this project. And it was the whole banana in the sky. It failed. And then to help, it's my understanding, to help pay for part of the loss on the bond, so the taxpayer wasn't 100% responsible, the land was sold. Before the land was sold, the town of Cicero, in that bond payment, paid for the sewers and the electrical, all the curbing, and the roads into that project. And on the back part of the project, towards the town of Clay, there was a huge sewer system put in.
Pumping station.
Pumping station. Thank you, Jessica. You got the right word for me. Yes, a pumping station. All of that, the town of Cicero taxpayers lost all that cost when they sold the land to this New Dimensions company.
The town did not take a bond out, to my knowledge. That was taken out by the developer. The town sold the property to the Cicero Development Corporation. There was no money that was paid for the infrastructure out of the bond other than by the developer. That bond had failed, but it wasn't the town's money.
The bond, the
Sold
town of
again.
Cicero lost its credit rating over that bond issue
But not
when we
because,
defaulted on it, and we did have to make one bond payment because it was in our budget at that time. Since it was in the budget, we had to pay for that bond payment that was due by the CLDC, who didn't have the money, and the town had to pay it. And then in the next budget, they didn't appropriate any funding for that.
That's correct, but the town lost its bond rating because the lease that the town had backed up, they failed to pay. So the developer's bond went into default, and that's why the bond rating went down. Our bond rating went down was because we had guaranteed that we were gonna pay the $250,000. We didn't do that at the time. We paid the $250,000 later, but by that time, the bonds had already gone into default. I'll spend some time with you afterwards, I can explain all that too, but it's not the town's bond. It wasn't the town's bond.
Indirectly, it was, directly maybe it wasn't, but the town became responsible for that bond payment, the $250,000.
They had agreed to do that.
Right, because we put it in the budget, because the CLDC was supposed to pay us, but pay the town, but they didn't have the money for it.
Correct.
Because of mismanagement, or whatever reason they gave, it doesn't matter. The answer is no, it doesn't matter what the reason is. And my concern is that it is viable land. And that, so this New Dimensions bought this land for X number of dollars. I never did hear how much they paid for it. But it's a valuable piece of land in the town of Cicero. So,
But it has sat there for many years without any development. And this project is the first project, that's being proposed. And it's a very viable project, and it's not going to cost the town any money. It's a $25 million project. It'll be 13 greenhouses that'll accommodate 12 people in each house in a new way to deliver care to the elderly.
I think
that's
also they're mentioning that they're looking at employing 120, 150 people.